What's up, Internet? Kevin here, bringing you guys another top 5 iOS games, this time for February 2015. This month's list has got a lot of games leaning more towards the simpler side. I got a lot of arcade-inspired games, ranging from a side-scrolling shooter that definitely owes some roots to Galaga, as well as a game that looks a lot like Super Hexagon, but a little more on the trippy side rather than just brutally difficult. Now, to balance out those 4 simple games, though, I do have one game that's anything but simple, and that's the charming but also very challenging Alro, a monster bumping adventure. Now, to be perfectly honest, this game can definitely be a little overwhelming at first. You want to make sure you run through all the tutorials before you start trying to attempt the main game. But once you do, you'll find it to be a very satisfying and very challenging puzzle game. The entire idea is that you move around the character Aro, and your goal is to bump enemies off the side of the map. However, they also have different ways of moving, different special attacks, different ways they mess with your movement, and so you have to keep into account how each enemy acts. The upside is that they all move when you do, so you can take your time planning which hexagon to move to and which moves you want to use when to best disable all your opponents. It's definitely not a game you want to pick up if you just want to mess with something every now and then for a little bit, but if you want a game that's going to challenge you and you can really soak some time into, this is a great option for $3. Not to mention, it has a really charming aesthetic. So since we started with the most complex game, let's start moving on to games in order of simplicity, starting with Magic Touch Wizard for Hire. Now, this is a free arcade-style game, though it does have in-app purchases in the form of buying currency, but all that really does is get you unlocks faster. There are things that you could get just by playing the game that often, which really is really easy to do with this game. It's very, very addictive. The entire idea is that there are these falling enemies that you have to prevent from landing on the ground, and the way you do that is by having to trace different symbols on the screen. You can use both your hands if you want to draw multiple symbols at the same time, which is basically a requirement when there's enough enemies showing up at once, and it just gets absolutely hectic. As you get farther and start unlocking new abilities, you do gain special powers you can use when they show up. They hang around long enough so you don't have to use them the moment they appear, and you can save them for situations that are absolutely necessary, such as slowing time down for a little bit. It looks easy at first, but it gets very challenging very quickly, and it's one of those games where I feel like really getting a high score just has the best feeling of you having earned it and smashing what your friends have gotten so far. Next up, at just $1, is Stardrift. Now, this game definitely owes a lot of its basic idea to old school Galaga rules. You're playing as a spaceship that's shooting other ships, and occasionally having to dodge things that are going to run into you. The difference, though, is that this is a side-scrolling game, and the way you control your movement is by holding the screen to move up, releasing to move down. You'll automatically keep firing lasers, and as you pick up power-ups, you'll fire more often, or in spread shots, more powerful shots, all the usual upgrades you're used to in this style of game. It's not the most original game out on the market, but it's just different enough that for only $1, it's a really great addictive choice, not to mention, it just has a solid look. Now, fourth on the list at $2 is the prettiest game, in my opinion at least, one of the most relaxing, and that's Alto's Adventure. Now, this is another game whose mechanic is really simple. You just need to tap the screen to jump. You do that to avoid rocks, to land on rails, to catch coins, to catch power-ups, or just catch llamas. It's another genre that anyone who's a fan of iOS games should be fairly familiar with, but one thing that I think this game does an excellent job of landing right on the nose is the aesthetic. It's the bright balance of being really beautiful, it has shifting day and night cycles, and it's just a really relaxing game overall. It's not a high-stress tapping game, it's one where you can just kind of kill some time, lay back, and just enjoy the aesthetic while trying to get the highest score you can, but you never get too angry about it. Now, if you're wondering how it could get any simpler than this, well, here's Psych. This is a free-to-play game that does have advertisements, but you can also remove them by paying just $2. Psych follows in the footsteps of other hectic games like Super Hexagon, where the idea is really simple. All you need to do is move your arrow forward without getting on the wrong track. But as you play the game and get farther, not only are things going faster, but the screen's going to start shifting and morphing in different ways. You'll start having weird waveforms, things are going to change perspective, and it just does things to really start to, well, as the name would imply, psych you out. Definitely not the most complex game, but it is one that can get pretty difficult as you get farther in the later stages, and you really need to pay attention and have a calm state of mind to get the highest score possible. Well, there you guys have it, my favorite iOS games of February 2015. Now, there were a lot of games on the App Store this particular month that were really acclaimed there, but honestly, I didn't really care for, and you guys might have, so make sure to let me know in the comments what games you loved this month that I didn't talk about. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, as well as subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Until next time, guys, I'm Kevin Kenson, and I'll see you later.